Okay, so I'm trying out a newer camera. Well, not a newer camera, but an older Canon camera that has been sitting around in my garage attic for quite some time. And so what I've done here is I've gone ahead and cleaned this baby up, cleaned the lens out, and I've had the Allegro running for a while here. I started her up a couple times today. You can see there's no, she's running. So I'll just be quiet for a second. You'll be able to hear she's running. Which is great. No exhaust coming out, which is awesome. Or there's exhaust coming out, but it's not puffs of white or blue smoke. She's never had blue smoke. She's only had sort of the white smoke coming out, which I guess some people say is water mixing in. That may be mixing in only because, you know, she sits around for so long and she's got a carburetor. So here, you know, I've been running her for a while. My heater, because I don't think I have the heater on. Had this on for like 3 days, 4 days. I would say 3 or 4 days, almost a week, on and off. I had it set way back to like 50, as low as she would go, and ran her, and eventually the battery did run down because of the fan. So I had to get the engine going to get her started and get the battery recharged. Hit the gas a little bit. Oop. Every once in a while we get a little sputter, but you know, it is what it is when you're just sitting here with, you know, I got to think about a half a tank of gas, and so here you go, half a tank of gas, alternator's running. You can see the vacuum is pretty high. It's a little over. It's right about 21 pounds. She's idling a little high. I need to drop that idle down a little bit. I think it's could be dropped down to, you know, 850, 750. Right now it's just because it is where it is with the cold running. But other than that, she's doing okay, which I'm very happy about. And in any case, like I said, trying to start her up and run her once a week. Make sure things are okay, and keep her in good running shape. Make sure all the systems are working that are working. Make sure there's no leaks. Let's go inside real quick. Most stuff is kind of stacked away for the winter. We've got stuff in boxes. I usually empty out all the drawers. And I usually keep these boxes in the house, but for right now we just dumped everything here. Some of the maintenance items are, well, the fan fell off the ceiling, and that's because we had a little issue with one of the plumbing vents, and I left a skylight open, so fortunately we got a little water in here. Yeah, it is what it is. A little, you know, continued maintenance. Other than that, we're pretty good. Stuff's looking good here. There's no leaks. Do have kind of a sort of a chronic issue with next to where the refrigerator vent is. You can see where it's getting crispy here, and I know I'm going to have to deal with it. See, look at that. I just pulled all this off. So it's definitely getting moist there because the flashing in the seal for the refrigerator vent isn't, it's breaking down. So I'm just going to have to fix that up and replace it. Not a huge deal, but it is what it is, right? As I always say. So we're going to check here. Obviously the engine's running, so the battery, it's about at 3/4 now, which is good. The engine's been running for a while. It's almost up at full. You can see it's like just almost there. Just almost there, but not right quite. Propane is down to about 1/4. I may go out and get that filled again, just so I get a full propane tank. I'm always kind of nervous even in the off season, not having a full propane tank in case we need to go somewhere, take a trip, whatever. It's nice to have a full tank and keep things going that way, especially for the refrigerator and you know, for the cooktop if we need to go off site somewhere where we just don't have shore power. So that's what I got going on here. So, you know, it's I'm gonna keep her running a little longer today and make sure that the battery gets charged up. I've found that when the battery is fully charged, the generator tends to start up on remote really quick. When the battery's somewhat tapped out, I have to go back there and fiddle around with a throttle on the Onan. Otherwise, when it's like almost at full charge or nearly full charge, you can flick the switch on the remote for the Onan here, and she will start up. But anything less than nearly a full charge on the battery, she just doesn't want to do it. And you got to go back and fiddle with it. So that's what I got going on right now. This is midwinter. It's just before New Year's, just after Christmas, just before New Year's. And you can see here, there's not really a lot of snow out there. I'm gonna hopefully let the camera adjust a little bit. There's really not a lot out there. So here it is, end of December, almost 2020, and it's pretty clear out, which is okay for me. Not a big fan of the snow, such as it is. Well, it's looking like a little snow squall has popped up here. It's going to be doing a little startup here on both the RV and the generator, I hope. Got the key right here. There she is. As you can see here, we're starting to get a little bit of snow. I'm going to hop up inside the little girl here. Wow. Whew. A little chilly in here. All right, let's get her started. We're gonna pump the gas once. Put the choke going there. Put the key in. Here we go. Alrighty. Give it a little gas. I did start this a couple days ago. The clock says a little bit before 4, but it's actually 3. New Year's Eve. It says 3:46, but it's actually 2:46. Rev her up a little bit. Clear it out here. About 18 pounds pressure. She usually does a little better than that. A little pup, 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 but it's I'm goosing it pretty good. So, and alternator is, I'm going to put this on just a little bit to show you. Alternator is still. You can hear the belt squealing down here. Not, you know, it's one of those chronic things I'm still trying to work on when I get time. I try to just warm it up a little bit. Usually once it warms up, the alternator will stop squeaking, or the belt or whatever. I have another alternator. I may just swap it in, a higher amp alternator. Sometimes after you do that, she'll, she's climbing up. She's climbing up there. Still squeaking a little bit. To the point at which it stops. But right now it's not doing it. Still squealing a little bit. funny when I gas it, the alternator drops off, if you notice. And you would think that it would increase when you're given a little gas, but apparently in this case it's not. And I'm trying to hold the camera fairly steady. You can see it's almost down into the neutral territory between 8 and 18. Oil pressure is staying pretty close to 45 to 50 pounds. Let me go over here. I'm keeping her about 2600 RPM. This is about where we'd run if we're doing like 70 miles an hour. About 3,000 or about 2,900 RPMs, right about there. That's where I'd be running her on the highway, believe it or not. And as you can see here, I'm going to try to get it refocused. And you can hear that the alternator has stopped squealing. 3,100 RPM. She's back up into her normal range. So what I'm going to attempt to do here is to start up the generator. Because sometimes when I'm driving and I've got this thing revved up pretty good, see here, it's dropped back down again, like even below. So I'll ease off on that. Generator did not start. I'm still keeping her up for about 2,800 RPM. And she, as you can see here, she starts to, she gets up out of the range again. Just gonna try to start her again after I primed it once. And you will go over here and you will see it drop. It'll start to drop. I'm gonna try to keep the RPMs up. And you can see it starts, there you go, sucking the battery down. And she's not started. A lot of snow out there. Sorry for the video adjustment, but that's what's been going on out there since we first got in. It was bone dry outside, by the way. Literally within a matter of just a few minutes here, about 5-6 minutes, snow has built up. May have to do a manual start of the generator in the back here, but I'm trying to see if I can get her to start up from inside. Usually when I'm rolling and driving, she'll do it. Almost got it. See? It's not doing it. And it's dragged the alternator down. Watch when I do this, because I've let my foot off the gas here. I let my foot off the gas. I'm not pushing the gas anymore. I'm going to try to start up this generator, and I'm going to tell you from my experience, it's going to start squealing like mad. So I'm going to go up here to this, and you're going to see what happens. Immediately it drops down. I'm going to try to give it a little gas. Just trying to make it happen. She's not starting up remotely, which is unfortunate. You know, so you got to run outside, and if you play with the throttle a little bit, she'll actually start right up, no problem. It's the issue is it's pretty much got it wide open instead of near idle when it starts up. And so when I'm doing this here, it's like you want to just try to make this happen. You know, you get a little stubborn because you're thinking, dude, I got a remote here, so why isn't this thing up and running? You know, why isn't she going? And you think it would kick in and get running. Nope. See the light on the switch is on. You know, I'm sitting here going, hey, why can't I get this going? Stubborn here because I really want this thing to start remotely instead of me having to go outside and key in and take the other set of keys and try to get the generator started from outside, which I can do, but I just find it irritating that I'm going to turn the lights. I turned the lights off, by the way. Hear it just sucking the life out of the generator here. Yep. So I'm going to keep this running a while, just to keep charging up the alternator. Not charging up the alternator, but charging up the batteries. You know, the actual battery that's down here, the chassis battery, and the coach battery that's all the way in the back. So, and as you can see here, oh, white out again, sorry. We'll start here and go eventual. There we go. And you can see here we've got quite a bit of snow out there. So, starting to build up a little bit. Gonna run the defroster. See how that works. And continue to work on the rig here. We're planning on doing a trip sometime Memorial Day weekend. Seems like a long way off, but it's going to be another Florida trip. And want to get everything up, working, making sure everything is good before we make that trip. And it would be awesome. It'd be awesome if everything did work as intended. All right, so the RV generator will not start up remotely, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that this choke is now a manual choke. It's up vertical here, it's wide open, so I've got to close that off for right now. And this throttle linkage is always pretty much wide open. And so what's got to happen is I've got to throttle that back. And I don't know if this is blocking your view or not. Let me check here real quick. Probably is to some degree. So again, the throttle linkage here is wide open, and the choke was wide open as well. So I've closed the choke. I've got to take my hand and basically pull this throttle linkage back a little bit when I hit the start button, and hopefully everything should work just fine. So I'm going to try and do that right now. As I do this, reach over, pull that back a little bit, and start her up. There we go. Now I've noticed that the choke up here is zoom in a little bit. Up here, I tend to open up. He's already opened up pretty much. Now I've got it opened up almost all the way. He's warmed up. It didn't take much for it to do that, but in any case, that's the challenge I'm dealing with right now. And I have to figure out how to make that choke a manual choke to an electric choke. Got it on the old carburetor. I'm going to let this run a little while, let it warm up, let it charge the battery up. Go around here. And we're going to get into the check the monitor, and of course it is showing that the generator is on and the clock still works. That's still been adding up time. This does not work. I'm going to see if I can get it to work again. I have to check, I think there's either a capacitor or a connection that's just not working anymore, because it would be nice to have a secondary battery meter working. You can see the cover's kind of shot, and the switches, the lit switch is working to indicate that it is still, generator is still running. Alrighty.